Hey friend, welcome to the Simple Annual Budget. If you're watching this video, that means you just purchased your Simple Annual Budget, and we at Winky Sheets want to say thank you and congratulations for being one step closer to reaching your financial goals. Now, this Simple Budget is a condensed version of our Ultimate Annual Budget, which contains extra tabs like a savings goal tracker or a 50-30-20 budget. If you'd like to increase your functionality in this spreadsheet, feel free to follow the link in the description below to find out more about that Ultimate Annual Budget. Now, before we get started, if you find there are any questions that you still have after watching this video, feel free to reach out to us directly at team@winkysheets.com. Now, when you purchase your Simple Annual Budget, you received a download PDF link. Whether you're on Mac or PC, we're going to want to double click that PDF to open it in a PDF viewer. If you're on Mac, you may be used to just pressing spacebar to open PDFs, but you'll notice that you can't actually click the links within it. So we'll want to actually double click that PDF to open it in a PDF viewer, like Adobe Reader. Once inside, you'll notice that we have 4 currency options to choose from. I'm in the US, so I'm going to choose dollars. Now, once I choose my currency, I'll notice that this template preview shows up in Google Sheets. Don't worry if it looks a little funky at first. It's going to look totally normal once we click Use Template in the top right corner. Perfect. Now that we're inside Google Sheets, there's a couple of things that we need to take care of first. You'll notice here at the top that this is first asking that it allows us to send and receive data from external parties. This is simply so that we can access the YouTube tutorial within the spreadsheet. Let's go ahead and press Allow Access. Great, now that we've done that, our YouTube tutorial link is here. If it shows an icon that says View Only or that we need to request access to use the spreadsheet, all you need to do is go up to File, make a copy, and simply name this spreadsheet whatever it is you like. You can customize it with your name. Then simply press Make a Copy. Now we'll be able to type in this spreadsheet as we like. The first time that you open up this Google Sheet, you may notice that some of the tabs take a moment to load. You may even find that some are blank at first. That's totally normal, and all we need to do is go up to the top and click Refresh. It may take Google Sheets just a moment to prepare your Google Sheet for future use. This may also happen if you're not on a strong enough internet connection. Perfect, now we're ready to get started. You'll notice that our first tab actually is Start Here. As you move throughout the spreadsheet, you'll notice that there are helpful tips at the tops and the sides of each tab, as well as helpful notes in different cells that have this triangle icon in the corner. So this video will be a helpful guide to make sure you know how to use the spreadsheet, but if you ever forget one of the things that we discussed in this video, you can simply find that advice throughout. Now, diving right into our spreadsheet, you'll notice that we have some different categories here to input before we can fill out the rest of the spreadsheet. Our income, our savings, our recurring expenses, and our variable expenses. I can add in my source of income that's personalized to me. Now, maybe you have an employer and you work a 9-to-5 job and you want to enter that employer's name here. Maybe you want to enter your partner or your spouse's income source here. If I don't have multiple sources of income, I can simply remove what I don't want. You'll notice here in this second column that we can add our start date, or what day of the month we receive this income, and how frequently we receive it, whether that's weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly. Now, this is going to be helpful once we reach our bill calendar in order to be able to see when we receive certain income. Now, keep in mind, you may not remember exactly when you started to receive this type of income. Maybe it was a couple of years ago, or you don't know exactly what day. The key thing that we want to include here is for any income that we receive regularly, in this example bi-weekly, we just want to make sure we have the right days of the month that we receive it. So maybe we're in the month of July and we have a start date in January. It doesn't really matter too much as long as we know the day of each month. If this is set to bi-weekly, that's going to show that twice a month we receive this income starting on the 15th. But let's say you receive income that isn't consistently paid on the same day every single month. You can simply type in the first of every month, or let's say the last day of every month. This is totally up to you in order to show this correctly on the bill calendar. Of course, remember to add this either as monthly or weekly, however is going to be most helpful for you to keep track of this income. Now, moving on to the savings column, we're going to enter any of our savings goals that we're trying to reach. If you're like most people, you may not have 4 different savings accounts Think of this section more as the different goals that you're trying to reach for your savings. Maybe you're trying to save up for a down payment for a house. Maybe you want to have money set aside for traveling or for car repairs when those come up. We're going to enter each of those savings funds here so that we can measure how close we are to reaching our savings goals. Now, as we move down, you'll notice that we have our recurring expenses and our variable expenses. Some expenses that we pay each month, like our bills, our debts, and our subscriptions, come out on a regular basis. Maybe there's a certain day every month, or maybe even quarterly, that I make these regular payments. And then we have expenses that come out at various times, or maybe in different amounts. For example, I often like to go to restaurants, and I often buy groceries, but I don't do it on the exact same day every single month, and the amounts are different each time. For any of those changing expense types, we're going to enter in our variable expenses, and any of our recurring expenses that come out regularly and by the same amount, we're going to enter over here in this section. Now you'll notice that we have some helpful examples in here to give you a hint as far as what these bills, debts, and subscriptions might look like for you. For example, most people pay rent or their mortgage at the same time every month. These are recurring expenses, similar to our water bill or our gas bill or our phone bill. Similarly, we have our different debts that we can add here. Maybe I have multiple credit cards and I want to keep track of them by name. Next, we'll do that with any subscriptions we have for maybe streaming platforms or old magazines that we may have forgotten that we signed up for years ago. We're going to add those subscriptions here. Now, finally, go through and add any of the different categories that you spend on variably, irregularly. Now, once we've completed that, we're going to move on to the next tab, and we'll notice that these tabs here at the bottom, once we fill these out, most of the rest of the spreadsheet is going to be complete for us. Now, moving on to our bills tab, you're going to start to notice we're getting more specific on the different types of bills, debts, and subscriptions payments that we make each month. For each of our regular monthly bills, we have a certain day of month, usually, that we make these payments. For example, maybe your rent comes out on the 5th of every month. I can simply type that day of the month here in this column. Now, all of these bill types, debt types, and subscription types have all input from our Start Here tab, but I can add the monthly amount for each of these bills that come out regularly. Now, you may have noticed this variable bills section on the right. While we have recurring bills, we may have additional payments or different amounts that we pay toward a certain bill, debt, or subscription. For example, we'll find the same categories over here of expenses that we have. But let's say, for example, on a credit card that I have a regular monthly bill payment of $50 a month. Let's say I wanted to pay off my balance on the 5th of January. I still made my regular monthly payment. You'll notice I've added the 14th as the day of each month that bill is paid. But here on the right side, I can add any variable bills, any additional payments, or any out of the ordinary payments that I may have had to make toward one of these categories. In this case here, I paid an additional $200 toward that credit card on this date. This is going to be helpful in order to get specific on things that are not only regular monthly payments, but also things that you made additional payments toward. Here on this side, you can add any notes that you like, but this is totally optional. It just may be helpful for you to keep track of these expenses throughout the year. Now, as a quick tip, keep in mind that you still have $50 that came out this month, so this is an additional payment of $200, meaning that you would have spent $250 toward this credit card that month. Now, of course, you can type in each of your transactions manually, but what if you want to import your transactions from a bank account? This is really simple. You'll want to go to your bank website. For example, I have my bank accounts at Bank of America. I can simply go to my account history or my transactions and click download. And instead of downloading a bank statement, I'm going to download a CSV file, or what might be called a Microsoft Excel format. Now, this may show up a little differently from bank to bank, but your bank should allow you to download a CSV file. Now, once you've downloaded this CSV file, you can either open it in Microsoft Excel if you have that, or you can open this in Google Sheets. To open in Google Sheets, you'll just simply want to create a new blank spreadsheet. You'll go to File, Import, go to Upload, then simply drag and drop your CSV into Google Sheets. We can go ahead and click Import Data. Great, now all of our transactions for the period that we chose are downloaded. Now importantly, in order to copy everything over correctly, we'll want to copy everything column by column. So going back now to our annual budget, I can simply choose the cell I'm on and right-click, Paste Special Values Only. Now the same way I can Command V or Control V, and I can do this as well, and simply go up here and click Paste Values Only. This is so that it doesn't ruin the formatting and the colors that are default to our template. I can do the same thing with the description column so I know what each item is. I can simply paste and then click Values Only. Then I can simply adjust these as I like so that they're readable. Now you'll notice on some bank statements that the amounts of your transactions may show negative for expenses. Now we don't want to copy those in with negatives so that our budget works correctly. Now you could go one by one and remove the negatives, but a quick tip to remove all the negatives is to select a cell that's aligned on the same row as your transaction. Simply type $, then click the first cell, put times -1, and then it will turn that number positive. Now I can simply slide down and all of my transactions are going to show positive. Now this is the amount I can simply copy and go back to my transactions here and paste in. Same way, I can paste values only, or I can also again right click and say paste special values only. Now again, be careful for the positive numbers that they don't flip negative, and you make sure to update those as needed. Now moving on to our transactions tab, we're going to approach this similarly by entering our transactions throughout the year that we made toward our variable expenses. Remember, these are things that come out at various times. We're going to enter our transactions throughout the year when we received different sources of income, and then anytime that we made transfers to our different savings funds. Now you may find it helpful, like this tip says here at the top, to download a PDF or a CSV file from your bank website, or download your bank statements or credit card statements in order to input each of these transactions for the year so far. I recommend going through and adding your transactions by date, which means that you won't just have one category here input, you're gonna have things continue to come up, like restaurants. We're gonna have multiple times that this comes up, and I can enter the date that this transaction came out, starting with the month, a slash, and followed by the date. Once again, here on the right side, I can add any descriptions that are going to be helpful to remember what this transaction was for. Similarly, we're going to add any of our income throughout the year. We're going to type in the date that we received that income, as well as the type of income and exactly how much that was. And then in our savings transfers, we're going to add the same thing. Any times that we've transferred money to one of our different savings funds. In this example, to my travel fund, I sent $200 from my checking or my savings account in order to reach those savings goals. Now remember, all of this information is going to be viewable either on your bank statements, your credit card statements, or your account history on your bank websites. Now, once we've completed those tabs, we're now able to move on to our monthly budget, which you'll notice has most of that information already complete for us. Now you'll notice that we have a monthly budget for each month of the year here below. So the only things that we really need to complete on this tab as far as the date is our year. What if we're actually in the following year of 2026 or maybe 2027? I can simply click on this cell here and change that year by typing in at the top. Additionally, I want to add any starting balance I may have had when I started this month. I'll find this information on my bank statement. From here, I want to go through each of these categories for income, savings, our recurring expenses, and our variable expenses, and add in any goals that I had for the amounts of that month. For example, this month, based on my transactions, I received $2,600, but my goal was actually $4,500. This can be helpful to measure whether or not you actually received the amount you were hoping for. Once again, if we have categories that we aren't using or we only have one type of income, I can simply remove the examples that are here by default. Once I've completed this monthly budget, I'm going to move on to the next month, and I'll be able to find my transactions for that given month input automatically from my transactions tab. Now moving on, we have our weekly budget. You'll notice that this budget looks pretty similar to our monthly budget, except we're going to enter in a start date. Now because we're only looking at 1 week, we can simply type in whatever day of a month that we like. And you'll notice that our end date updates automatically to follow that 7-day week period. So, for example, let's say I want to look at the week of March 7th. I can type in 3/7, and you'll notice that my entire budget for that week is already complete, apart from the starting balance that I once again want to add here based on my bank statement, and any goals I had for that given week I can input here as well. Additionally, I can go down here to my bills, debts, and subscriptions and mark whether or not this is a payment made per week or per month. For example, if I click this checkbox here, you'll notice that maybe I didn't actually have a payment go out toward my rent on this given week, right? Because we set that to pay on the first of the month. But what if I want to budget how much this category is on a monthly basis? This is the amount that my payment would be if I was making it weekly. So I can go through each of these, and for any of my transactions that I've input, it's going to divide this up for the month into the given week that I'm looking at to know exactly how much I need to budget for. Similarly, as we move on to our next budget, this is the paycheck budget, we're going to see that we can add a start date and an end date to follow whatever paycheck it is that we received and we want to budget for. So maybe you're somebody who receives a paycheck every 2 weeks. And let's say you receive that paycheck on the 15th and your next paycheck is on the 30th. So we want to set our end date for the 29th. Now that means on this budget, we're only going to be following the dates that we've added here for that given paycheck. I can also add my starting balance as normal, change any income, savings, or expense goals that I have, and I can split up any of my expenses just for budgeting purposes to see how much that actual payment would be. In this case, throughout this 2-week period, our rent is $800. If I split it in two, this helps me see what my expenses would be for the month split in two, even if it didn't fall in that period. Now, let's move on to the annual budget. This budget, you're seeing the trend, it's mostly complete for us. All we need to update on this tab is actually our starting month and our current month. So for example, maybe I want to see the entire year, but I don't want it to necessarily start from January. Maybe I want to see the year starting from April 1st, 2025. Our annual budget is now going to show us the 12-month period starting from April. And you'll notice that we have this one row that's highlighted. It's the month of May. That's to show us what our current month is. Let's say our current month is actually August 2025. You'll notice then that our row updates below to give us an idea of where we are in the year. I don't need to add my starting balance or my ending balance or anything else because all of that information pulls in from our transactions tab that we already completed. As you move down this annual budget, you'll notice that there's some helpful tips as well as some charts that give you a good visual throughout the year of your income, expenses, and savings. Additionally, keep in mind you don't actually need to enter any of your goals because those already have pulled in from our monthly budgets. Now our next tab is our bill calendar. If we completed our start date and our frequency for our income, we'll notice that that income now displays on our bill calendar for the days of the month that's received. In this case, we chose bi-weekly, and so you'll notice every 2 weeks that that income is received, as well as any of our transactions on the given dates that we input on our bills tab. The only thing that we need to do on this bill calendar is update the month and the year. You'll notice here in this note, just like all of our other date notes, how to type in that month. As a reminder, you'll type in the month / the first day of the month in order to look at the bill calendar for that specific month. Finally, we have our financial freedom tab. Now, this is a little bonus tab that we included to help you measure how close you are to achieving financial freedom. And like most people, you're looking ahead at the future decades to determine how much money do I need to save in a retirement account in order to retire with enough money. This tab explores some helpful details on the types of investment accounts most people prefer to invest in and in what order. This calculator here on the left allows you to enter your current age, the age you wish to retire at, what your current investment account balances are, and how much you want to contribute annually. And it will tell you here at the bottom what that amount will be by the time you reach that age. Now, your average return amount in the US on average for the S&P 500 is around 10%, and the average life expectancy in the US is around 78. But you can, of course, change these numbers as you like. In fact, if you think you're going to reach the age of 95, by all means, update that. We want to determine how much money you'll have on a yearly basis in your retirement accounts by the end of that life expectancy age. Additionally, this financial freedom tab will have some other helpful tips on how to automate your finances, how to create automatic transfers to save more effectively, and what percentage of your income you can invest in order to meet those retirement goals. Altogether, these tabs make up the ultimate annual budget by Winky Sheets, and we're so honored that you decided to use our annual spreadsheet in order to meet your financial goals. As we mentioned at the beginning, if you have any trouble with any other part of this spreadsheet that wasn't mentioned throughout this video, we'd love for you to reach out. Simply contact us with the link in the description or email us at team@winkysheets.com, and we'd love to help answer any of your questions there. Best of luck and happy budgeting.